Now, the first time your daughter goes out to a club can be a nerve-wracking time for any parent, with all sorts of dangerous scenarios going through your mind. This latest news will do little to ease those fears after several young women saying that they blacked out after being spiked with needle injections in clubs. Police in Nottinghamshire, West Yorkshire and Scotland say they're investigating the reports. And now a boycott of clubs in over 30 university towns and cities is taking place over the next 2 weeks to raise awareness of the issue. It's called Girls' Night In, which is interesting in itself. I mean, it's really worrying. I mean, look at some of the figures here, Katie. This was a Freedom of Information Act. Up to 25 victims of crime have had their drink spiked every week, apparently, and the number of investigations involving spiking, alleged spiking, in England and Wales has doubled in the past 3 years.
I mean, it's just sickening that we're even having this conversation and that this is a thing and we need to acknowledge it because of the scale that it's on. So, you know, let's not normalise this because the more sometimes we talk about these things and do we get desensitised because this is horrific and very, very shocking. But I think sadly for me, you know, predators, if this is where you get your gratification, if this is where you get your kicks, this is just the escalation of a predator finding new ways to prey on vulnerable people. You know, we've been told to dress differently, we've been told to cover our drinks, we've been told to go home in twos and text a friend, and now we're being told to make sure we don't get injected. So if you're a maniac, you will find a way to inflict the pain and evil you want to inflict onto men, women or whoever.
Yeah, but one of the responses to this, as I say, is a boycott of clubs, you know, by a group who are obviously concerned, understandably concerned.
What, you mean they're shutting? They're closing?
In. Sorry?
The clubs are closing?
No, they're going to boycott them.
They're just not going to go there?
Yeah.
Right.
So this is girls' nights in. So, I mean, just from the language of that, I mean, you're saying that girls, women, don't feel safe to be out in a public space and are choosing not to be in a public space, which is, you know, pretty dramatic.
Or they feel like they have to stay at home because they can't go out because they might get spiked or get their drink spiked or whatever. I'm more shocked by the idea of people, men, boys, whatever, walking into nightclubs with paraphernalia like that. I'm really shocked at that, and I'd never heard of it. And you've got daughters, so you know about it. Yeah, exactly. And I've never heard of it. And I just think we still have to be really careful because the majority of men, boys, whatever, wouldn't dream of doing that. They wouldn't think about it. So we can't just go, oh, OK, well, everybody's at risk of this because every boy in that club is going to have this idea in their head because they're not going to. You know, we can't go around being scared of absolutely everything all the time. And everyone has to be careful.
But why are we going to that point? Why are we not more concerned about the 25 victims of spiking every week? Why are we not talking about that and what's been done to try and...
No, it is shocking, Kate. I'm not saying it's not a thing. It's a terrible, awful thing. It is. But I'm not... Why does everybody have to assume that they're in danger and all go home because of 25 victims? They need to find the people that did it and do something about them.
Because if you're a young woman, you don't know if it's going to be you. I mean, you've been spiked, haven't
unfortunately, when I was 19, I went out in London. I'm from Luton. I got on a train. I went out in London, and my drink was spiked. I wasn't drinking alcohol. I was drinking just, a soft drink. I blacked out, didn't know what was going on, didn't know what had actually happened, and for me, it's more a thing of, I then had... When I go out now, and ever since then, I have my wits about me even more. I'll go into a venue and I'll have my back against the wall so I can see what's coming. You can't stop this thing. Like you're saying, there is no prevention. But I think, for me, what I was weary of was saying something and nobody actually listening to me because I don't have any proof and I don't have any evidence.
Yeah.
So, maybe these clubs have to, you might go to some of these clubs and they might pat the first 5 or 10 people down. Yeah. They need to be rigid with their patting down and actually ask people to turn out your pockets like I
think that's what the Girls' Night In group is saying. Rather than the conversation being about women having to have their wits about them, it's what are these clubs, the police and all the authorities actually doing to make women feel safe.
But also, as a mother of a son, I've raised my son to have respect for others and to have respect for women. So, like I was saying, I don't want to be vilifying men to say, guys are...
Can I show you a little video? And that's the tagline, don't be that guy. And obviously it is asking all men to kind of consider, you know, the culture that they live in and some of these casual conversations that they would never view as being sexually violent or threatening to women, but potentially can lead to a culture whereby women feel threatened. Carol, your reaction?
I don't know. Again, that video is kind of assuming guilt and the last line, don't be that guy. In other words, you could be that guy. You might have done that. You might have done something already and you might do something, and it's addressed to everybody, you know, and it is kind of assuming an element of guilt, I think, before, you know, most blokes would not dream.
I don't see it that way. I see it as
like
encouraging men to be part of the solution.
I see that as a powerful video that is opening up an important discussion. You know, it's saying, don't normalise this culture. And actually, if you're not that way inclined, you won't see yourself in that video. And all that behaviour is forceful, it's crossing boundaries, and it's going into sexually violent territory. I'll give you an example. Just yesterday, I got off the train and got a taxi from the train station. Outside of work, I wear no makeup. I kind of dress like a 12-year-old teenager, right? I'm in my puffer jacket, my hair's in a ponytail, I'm 5'2", so I look like a young teenager in the back of the taxi of this guy. And he asks me, innocent question, the address I'm taking you to, is it your home? I said, no, it's not, I'm going to my friend's house. Where do you live then? I keep it vague, London. Whereabouts in London? Central. He carries on and on, asking me where I live, who do I live with, is there anyone at my home? So I ended up saying to him, I don't want to tell you where I live. OK? And I left it. Then he went back to other small talk, and then he tried to bring it back and tried to get this information out of me, asked me who I live with. When we pulled up at the property, asked me if there was anyone in the property. He knew I was uncomfortable, and he carried on, and it's not OK. So when I put that on Twitter, calling it out, saying that is not OK to persist when somebody's firmly told you no, all the women on my Twitter agreed, and they recounted similar incidences. And lots of men said to me, you're making a fuss. This is wrong. You're in the wrong. Oh, calm down, love. Oh, what, because you're not getting the attention you want. And it went straight to this toxic masculinity.
And I guess that's the group that this video is addressing and is directed to, who say, calm down, love, but actually step back and say, well, actually, am I a guy that is putting a woman under, you know, pressure and making her feel uncomfortable? Don't be that guy. And I don't see why anyone would have a problem with that.
Well, I hope it works.
There's no magic bullet, is there? There's absolutely no... There's no one thing that's going to work. It's going to be a myriad of different things that will have to combine to change a culture that has existed for decades and centuries.